I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And I'd really appreciate if you would also mind subscribing to the podcast. I know a lot of you are listening, but make sure you are subscribing. Feel free to share it and let me know what you think over on Instagram and Facebook at Jeff Gruby. It's about growing as a person. Your best is completely unique to you. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on episode, I think, 22 of Fuck Perfect. I'm here with Chris Kaufman. He has a master's degree in organizational leadership, master's degree in STEM leadership. He's been a teacher for 13 years, all over the East Coast, I think in South Carolina and in Massachusetts. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
And so we are living in interesting times, and I really wanted to have someone I trust in as a teacher to talk about this. Like, because of coronavirus, I'm just going to jump right into it. Because of coronavirus, there are so many expectations that I think that parents have of themselves, of the situation, and parents have of kids. What are your thoughts on that, and what are your suggestions?
So yeah, it's definitely a strange time. Something that's never been done before. We're having to kind of make it up as we go and work together. One of the things so I have 4 kids of my own at home, and like you said, I've been teaching 13 years. I've taught grades 2 all the way up through 6. I coach wrestling at the high school, so I have a pretty wide range. And teaching my own kids at home is nothing like teaching kids in a classroom. It's impossible to make it that way. And even with my experience, my wife she stays at home with the kids now, but she's also got a master's in reading curriculum, and she was a teacher. And even with the 2 of us, putting in the work together, sometimes it's you get to that point where you're just gonna break, and you have to step back. And I think that's one thing that parents need to realize is it's okay. That's okay. If you get into that point, take a step back. These kids they're in a completely different environment. They're learning a different way. You're teaching a different way. I guarantee we've all heard that's not how my teacher does it as we're teaching stuff. And that's okay. What you're doing is good. Even if you feel like you're doing not enough, you're making it work. And that's what's important at this point. We got to understand that.
Yeah, just keeping the ball rolling. It doesn't really matter maybe the pace of it. It's not going to be the same.
Nope. And if they do 1 or 2 a reading assignment, a math assignment a day, and even if you're looking and you're saying that was really easy, don't push to the point where it's a fight, because then they're not learning anymore, and they're not even maintaining at that point. They're just rushing through something to get it done, so that it's not going to be their best work, and it's not going to be effective, and then you're just going to end up being frustrated.
On top of that, you can also create these negative associations to the subjects or school in general. Be like, man, I just can't take this. You're
Exactly.
like setting up these future situations.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, we've got a lot of resources. One of the things that I suggest doing is contact the teachers. I know a lot of parents don't want to do that. They're thinking that they're bothering the teachers, but that's our job. That's what we're here for. We want to hear from you guys. We're not sitting at home, in our pajamas. We miss these kids. It's what we want to do. So we like to hear from them.
Mm-hmm. And how do you, like, obviously, as you have a family of 4 and you're a teacher, how are even someone like you, who's you and your wife both super trained for this, how are you doing the balancing act? What have you noticed, or what are the struggles for you?
Well, we take turns, so that's helped out a lot. I don't know how we would do it if it was just one of us. So power to those people who are, because it's definitely a struggle. For me, it works out because I teach STEM right now, and a lot of the STEM directives for this distance learning is focused on some hands-on activities that most people can do with stuff they have around the house. So I've been able to upload. We do a lot with Google Classroom and a YouTube channel and things like that. And I've been able to actually sit my kids down, and we're doing experiments, and I'm videotaping them working through the experiments as I explain them. And then that's actually the videos that I've been uploading. So it's kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone for me, which works out really well. The packets that the schools have sent home have been great. They send them home for 3 weeks. My kids finish them in 3 days, and then we kind of have to we kind of have to figure out other things. We're all the online apps. You know, you've got to try stuff out. There's so much free available that it can get
Right.
overwhelming.
Totally.
Um,
What are some of
and
your recommendations for the top 3 things that you like that you see?
so I've seen Freckle. I've seen my kids have ST Math that works really well. Mystery Science was doing a free thing for science. Um, there's ReadWorks and things like that where you can get articles for ELA that interest the kids. There's thousands of them on there, and those are free. Things like that. Uh, yeah, and the schools have been passing out ones too that are specific to what they're targeting.
Mhm.
So
I've
if you
I bet you there's even like a surge in content creators on YouTube who have created um, channels specifically around educational kids videos or activities. I know,
oh,
say,
absolutely.
you know,
I know.
um,
I'd have to ask what channel it is, but art. Every day we do an art activity, and it's a YouTube video.
is it the guy and
Um,
the
and they
daughter?
No, no, no. It's a lady that actually lives right here. We've
Oh,
been to
okay.
her paint. We've been to her paint nights a couple times, and that's how we followed her. And she just does a tutorial video, and the video takes about 15 15 minutes to and she does step by step how to draw these characters. So far this week we've done Baby Yoda. We did Trolls from the new Trolls
Oh, that's
movie.
cool.
So it's relevant to what the kids want to do, and it's really cool. We did Sonic was another one that we did, and it's step by step drawing there, and then they spend a little bit of time coloring. She goes into painting like on canvas,
Hmm.
and we said we're not gonna around with that. So they draw in pencil, and then they go in color, and that's their art lesson. We've been doing physical fitness, a lot of Go Noodle, a lot
Yeah.
of there was jumping jacks gym, which I think his is paid, but there's a couple of free ones on there that are pretty good, and we kind of
Mhm.
just kind of circle around and mix it all up.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's really interesting to think um, about uh, ma- you. There's so much content out there, and teachers kind of have already used some of it. But I think it also can put the highlight on some of the good things that were just kind of undiscovered or kind of under the radar for a while. Um, like these like YouTube kind of drawing channels, and that's kind of an interesting. I mean, that's sort of how I feel about it. If you think about the art, they're drawing these characters. Like they could, I know in art class when I was a kid, we drew. Maybe with you too. Like we never drew characters. We just, it was all uh, very like draw an apple or draw these things. Like drawing characters was almost like not really encouraged.
Right.
But all of a sudden, like, oh, you want to learn how to draw? That's no problem. We'll just take this theme, and that's kind of what I've been doing. Is like I have the kids do is like, okay, this week let's choose a non-fictional theme. Next week we'll choose a fictional theme. So like
Yeah.
all week we could be counting Pokemon or drawing Pokemon or doing science with like that whole theme.
Right.
And the next theme could be the ocean, which is exactly what we did.
Yeah.
And then this theme's been like this last thing has been wizards. So it's been like Onward and Harry Potter and stuff
Right.
like that,
Right.
just
And
mixed
that's
into the activities, and it doesn't matter.
yeah, absolutely, and that's great, and that works for you, and maybe there's a parent where that wouldn't work, and that's okay too. It's
Right.
just like I said, we gotta people just gotta throw everything together and see what works, and like I said, this is unprecedented, so it's not like there's a plan for this.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things that I'd like to see come out of this is, every year teachers have professional development at the beginning of the year. Maybe take a couple of those professional development sessions and do some online tutorial videos of specific content that you'd be teaching in that year, and then you
Mhm.
can have that in your back pocket for because maybe something like this never happens again, but every year we have natural causes that we don't have school, whether it's in the Northeast,
Right.
we have snow, we have hurricanes, we have
Yep.
tornadoes, earthquakes. This is kind of the opportunity for us to really test out some of these platforms to help that situation. Again, nothing's ever going to replace in class, in person teaching. That's it's
Right.
never going to be the same. It's never going to equal that, and it's never going to be as effective. But we can also kind of mitigate some of that slide and some of that anxiety that comes with missing school.
Absolutely. I think, and yeah, that's an amazing point. of being able to use this in terms of like, you know, hurricanes and snowstorms and snow days and other cases where like, hey, I'm not available to go to school for whatever the reason is, but my school is now online.
Right, exactly. So I mean, this is an opportunity for us to learn. And yeah, it's a obviously it's an unfortunate situation, and definitely not something that we want to repeat itself. But
Hmm.
we can also take this time to figure out the kinks and see how we can do more effective instruction from distance learning.
Yeah. And what would you say in regards to like back on the first question of parents have this expectation of like they're like they have to be perfect or their kid has to be perfect, or if the teacher even sends a schedule and the parents like you have to do everything on this list and you have to be just absolutely perfect. Even like from that perspective, also fi- if you can share what it's like to be a teacher with the same expectations that the school has of you, like,
Right.
you know, that's the
So
same idea, right?
yeah, so there's actually a couple different parts to that. So I'll start with as a teacher, my expectation is that if I get 50% of what's been sent out back, I'm really happy with that. I know that the kids have been. It's really more about keeping them maintained, keeping them in that swing. So every year after the summer, we know that there's a dip, and it takes a week or two for the kids to get back in the swing of it. And
Mhm.
right now, we're in a situation where if schools don't reopen, it's you're talking 6 months, and even if they do, it's really only another month until your vacation, or a couple of weeks until your vacation. So how much is really going to get back into that maintaining of the schedule and the expectations of learning? So that's really important. That's more important to me than completing all the work, because I got to be honest with you. If I'm a teacher and I teach STEM, I'm a specialist, so I'm sending things home, and 760 of my kids are doing them. And if I send 5 things home a week, and we're talking 8 weeks down the road, I have to do 5 times 8 times 760. It's simply not possible. So I don't want to see all of it come back. If someone's coming back with all of that work, they need to come help me grade it. But at the same time, we do want them to maintain. So that's the purpose of what we're sending home. It's not to say this all has to be completed. It has to be um, perfect, and things like that. That expectation is not realistic for a teacher to have. As far as the other side with the parent, again, you don't want to push the kid to the point where they hate this, and this is going to be a miserable time. I read something the other day where it was talking about in 15 years, adults are going to be sitting around talking about this and saying, "Man, that was miserable. That was terrible. That was the worst time. We had to do this." And the kids are going to be saying, "That was the best time I've ever had. I got to spend weeks at home and just hang out and play and have fun with my parents and everybody there." And that's kind of got to put it into perspective of how they're thinking and everything like that, and not put the pressure on so much that it's
Yeah, I was
realistic.
just thinking about that last night when someone said something on social media, and I was like, man, but if I was a kid, and you know how excited you got for snow days, granted, not making a joke of the situation or light of it, but this is one hell of a snow day,
Yeah,
and it's
it's
like,
the ultimate. It really is. It's the ultimate snow day. And I mean, for me, my own kids at home, we have a schedule,
mhm,
and the schedule runs from 8 o'clock in the morning until 2:30. But realistically, built into that is already an hour and a half of free time, and a lot of the times that last 45 minutes to an hour, they're burning out, and that's okay. We get the majority of it done between 8 and 10:30.
mhm.
And it's not a sit down and this is what you have to do. It's let's work on this, let's try this, let's test this, let's have a break now, let's do this. And it's really just kind of getting them to continue with the work and not necessarily finishing it.
Yeah, you know, when you were telling me that I'm gonna jump off of that, I wonder if this is part of the issue. Is like, I think today, I think I might have talked to you about this on our vacations. Is that I believe the trend in the last 15 years has been this hands-off parenting. This like, um, well, it's been forever. Hands-off parenting being like, go play meant go outside. Now go play means go get a device. I'm exaggerating, but um, basically, this hands-off parenting now is like is flipping on them because now they have to actually do the thing that they've always said, hey, just go play, go do something. Now they're like, oh, now I have to spend time with my kid to teach them and do this stuff because they need that one on one.
Right.
And it's so interesting because before there's like, oh, my kid has an iPad, they have a device, they're fine, they're fine, they're fine. But now you're forcing these parents to actually have this more structured relationship. And I wonder, and the parents will also say, hey, my kid's overacting, he hasn't listened to me. I'm wondering if that will slightly improve because now they're having a relationship, they're setting up boundaries, they're doing things. Everything's it's like parenting is new to them now because they have to be with their kid.
Right. And this parenting is obviously different. I mean, you're quarantined, right?
Right.
You're stuck in the house, and I'm in the office right now, and this is probably the closest thing to I can actually hear them running around behind me in the other rooms, and this is probably the closest thing to, you know, being alone and having a few minutes to myself that I've had in a month. But and I'm sure everybody's feeling that same way. But it is you really do get to know the kids better. You get to know the structure better. I'm sure you're going to get less of, well, my kid doesn't do that at home. They're in the parent teacher conferences now, and so
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting, and it'll be funny to see how that goes. But yeah, this is definitely something we're learning how to do, and it's new for everybody. And thinking like that and being like, wow, I can't believe that this is hard. How hard this is for my kid doesn't mean that they're a bad parent. It just means that it's something different that we need to figure out. I mean,
I
it's not something we've ever done.
Even though there's the hope there, do you think that there's also going to be more there's more awareness around teachers' jobs now? And like, wow, they really did all this. Like, do you think that actually helped the teachers in terms of um, workload and pay? Do you think that's going to
Uh,
affect it in the future?
I'd like to say yes, but I
Yeah.
can't. I don't. I don't think that that's going to change. I do think that this is going to make it so that there's more appreciation.
Hmm.
But as far as workload and pay, it's the job. The job is the job.
Yeah.
We got to do it, and yeah, now they know how hard it is, so maybe we'll get less of the complaints.
Hmm.
But I don't think the other thing's really going to change significantly from this. If it does, great. If not, then again, this is the job. This is what we need to do, and we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Are there any takeaways that you wanted to tell any parents? Most of the most of the people listening to the podcast are parents,
Yeah.
but like, what are some key takeaways for them?
I guess keep the structure. Definitely ask for help where you need it. Ask the community out there. Ask your teachers. Ask everybody. Ask other parents.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that you're not doing what you're supposed to. It just means you're trying to find a better way. I've created curriculum before, and I made these lessons that on paper I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And halfway through the first lesson, I'm like, I'm never teaching this again. This is terrible. So
Yeah,
I mean, that's basically where you guys are at, where parents are at right now, is we're testing stuff out, and if it works, great, let's use it again, and if it doesn't, let's throw it out and try something different.
yeah,
And it's frustrating, and when you're getting to that point where you're just screaming at your kid because for some reason 4 plus 4 keeps being 9, take a break. It's okay. Take
yeah.
a break. Let them take a break, and then and tackle it again another time. Don't overwhelm yourself to the point where you're just screaming back and forth because then no one's learning them.
Right. Absolutely. That's great advice. And I was even in one of the classes I was in with my son. They it was I hope it doesn't get around to her, but the teacher, it was so bad. They were playing a they weren't just giving a YouTube video out to watch. They were actually sharing their screen, playing the YouTube video that way. I'm like, this is just horrible. And the YouTube video was like, probably 1991. Like, it was so bad. Like, why are we doing this? Like, and it was just the person's reading a book. I'm like, how about I didn't say this, but I was like, maybe the teacher just should either A, send the video to us, or B, read the book herself.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I'm
it's
sure
a
that the
learning
teacher.
curve.
Yeah, and again, I'm sure the teacher didn't plan for it to be that bad. I did a lesson this year that I've done in the past, and I changed it around a little bit this year. And my principal happened to walk in while I was doing the lesson, and the introduction to the lesson was the one that I've done for years and it was great. And then we get into the activity part, which I was trying something new, and it just fell apart, completely fell apart.
Uh-huh.
And he came in for an evaluation, for an observation for that. And so, after our observations, we're supposed to go down and meet and talk about it all. So I walk into the office, and she's got her notepad in front, and she says, "So what did you think of the lesson? Let's start with that." I go, "I thought the lesson was terrible." And she goes, "Okay, well, that's all I had written down." And we no, we talked about it, and it wasn't a a situation where I went in and I'm like, "Oh no, I'm in trouble." It was all right, so this is what I liked about the lesson, this is what I didn't. Let's figure out what works, what doesn't, and fix it. And again,
Yeah.
parents have to approach this in that situation, and you're going to try some stuff, and you're going to have bad days, and your kids are going to have bad days, and let's hope that they're on, you get those out of the way, and then you guys have good days at the same time, and then everything seems perfect. um I think that we just got to keep it going, and keep trying.
Yeah, I think that's a big key thing is that they don't when parents are reflecting on they're not really reflecting on it from the same um, trained mindset of a teacher. It's like, okay, what worked and what was the goal? What was I trying to do? What worked? What didn't work? What can I try next?
Right.
Uh, even if it's like, even if it's a normal person talking about diet or exercise or teaching, it's like that mindset is very, uh, I don't know. It's not as common. It's not the average
Right.
mindset,
Well,
right?
and that's it. The growth mindset is kind of changed, and it's come around a lot lately in the past
Hmm.
few years. And I think it's really, really important to understand that we're not a society that does this whole uh, fail or pass type of thing. It's there's no such thing as in my classroom, for example, that kids know there's no such thing as failing. You can't fail. The only way you fail is if you quit. Every
Hmm.
time you make a mistake, you learn from it. Every time you do something wrong or something doesn't work, you have to figure out why, think about why didn't that work, and then change it. And it's the same approach. I mean, that's the approach I take to teaching anyway. I like to try new things in the
Hmm.
classroom. I like to make up my own stuff, and sometimes it works great. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's okay, and I can get to the end of it and say, "All right, now I can fix it." Other times it's bad right from the beginning, and I have to go into my backup plan right away. And I think that mindset is what's going to help parents, is to understand that, yep, we all know that this isn't something you've done before. This isn't something any of us have done before, and you're going to have things that don't work, and that's okay. But don't get frustrated to the point where you just give up.
That's awesome. I love that, and I'm a huge fan of growth mindset. And I was just watching this video on Netflix actually, like 100 Humans, and it's kind of cheesy, but the one video they had is they had a group of people saying we're going to pay you $400 if you can build the tallest tower out of these supplies, and the other group they said we're going to see who can do this, who can build the tallest tower out of these supplies. So there's no reward, and
Hmm.
so the group that was given all money. There's like a 50 people in different groups given money or the reward of money. Everyone was like more either quieter. They didn't want to suggest a dumb idea. They were more intense. They were more focused. They're more uh, on edge. They're a little more upset
Yep.
to get the money. And the people who didn't have the money as a reward, who felt like it was just fun and creative without that sort of pressure of, say, passing or failing, like you're talking about, they actually had more fun. More groups actually had a tower that stayed up, and that group is the group that made the tallest tower as well.
Yeah. Of course.
So it's like, okay, you take sort of not that pressure's bad, but if you hold a gun to an artist's head and say, "Paint me a masterpiece," it's like, nope,
Yeah.
it's probably not going
Exactly.
to happen.
Yeah, so that's another thing that we got to focus on, is the motivators and what it is that motivates, because it's different for everybody. What motivates you might not be what motivates me. And that for me, that's huge in a classroom, and knowing your own kids and things like that. My kids are, all four of them are different. Motivating, I can motivate my daughter with a piece of candy. Um, my
Hmm.
son's like, "Nah, I don't want candy. I don't care." So it's like, you know, if you finish that reading, you get this, and they're like, "Yeah." One of them's like, "Yay!" The other one's like, "Yeah." So what? If I don't read, I don't have to worry about either one. So it's definitely a situation that, again, it's all trial and error, and we gotta make it go. I do have another show that you should watch, though. If you have Disney Plus, it's called Shop Class.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's a really good one. We've been watching. That's been one of our wrap ups of the day is watching an episode of Shop Class, and basically they have three teams of kids,
Uh-huh.
and they're given materials and a specific goal, a specific type of project that they have to build, and then they just go and do it. And then it is a competition where they pick a winner each week, and
Uh-huh.
it's a bracket type of thing. But it's a really cool thing, and we haven't watched an episode yet where at least one of my kids haven't been like, "I want to do that." So it's
That's
really
cool.
cool.
You know, that reminds me back in the day, I would watch, maybe you did too, the old Yankee Workshop. So it wasn't
No,
really competition. No, you didn't watch that? It was like a
no, no.
woodworking show on some like PBS kind of channel. And I would sit there on weekends just like, I want to make a chair and a table and oh, I want to fix this.
Yeah,
It was so cool.
that's funny.
So what do you think that even though summer vacation's coming up and now parents are more equipped with the tools of learning, do you think that it is recommended, or what are your thoughts on actually kind of keeping the ball rolling until the school year, even if it's a slower roll?
Yeah, so I'd love to see that. Um, I'd love to see that happen within reason. So again, it is summer vacation, and
Yeah.
the kids look forward to summer. I mean, I know I did. Um, so to keep a structure again, maybe a half an hour of reading should be something standard every day.
Hmm.
Maybe a couple math practice things. For my son, we play Pokemon, the card game,
Yeah.
and he has to add up all the points, and I check it over, but he has to do the math to add it all up, and we keep a running record of it all, and that's his math.
That's
Um,
awesome, and that's
and
awesome.
yeah, so stuff like that where it can still be a game, um, and used, but they're doing the math.
Hmm.
I'd love to see that again. Not something as strict as what this distance learning is going now, and not as rigid, but definitely keeping up with some of this so that you don't get that fallback. Again, our favorite science lessons so far have been walking outside and looking at stuff. And
Hmm.
that counts. Just talk about what's there and stuff like that. I'd like to see more of, and I know a lot of parents do that already, and I don't think that that'd be too far out of the comfort zone. But maybe now they're kind of more focused on the type of stuff that we're doing in the classroom as opposed to just kind of pulling it out of thin air.
Awesome. Hey man, well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being on the
Of course.
podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully this helps the parents that are listening, and gives them some ideas and lowers their, or at least fixes some expectations that might be too high.
Yeah.
All right, man. Take care. Have a good one.
Yeah. You